Hi, welcome to B2B Bytes. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Isaiah Bollinger, CEO and co-founder of Trellis, a leading e-commerce solutions provider. Isaiah is a B2B evangelist and has been running arguably the top B2B e-commerce podcast in the world. Isaiah, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Today, we're going to be discussing the topic of B2B branding. Why do B2B businesses lag their D2C, sexy D2C partners quite so much in the way that they promote themselves and brand themselves? And this is a great topic that I think folks are really going to enjoy listening to. And Isaiah, you have a lot of experience in. Maybe kick us off, Isaiah, with maybe some of your experiences as to why you think that B2B businesses have struggled to improve that branding and improve their brand recognition kind of in the market, especially as we compare to the D2C titans out there.
Yeah, I think on the B2B, it's actually quite simple explanation. So the B2B businesses historically, and let's exclude like SaaS, I'm talking more like manufacturers, distributors, businesses that were generally maybe founded before the internet or the early days of the internet. And still today, most of their business is through sales reps and direct relationships with customers. And whether that's showing up in person or, building that one-to-one customer relationship, that's their marketing and sales and their brand, right? And you're buying from this person and you don't necessarily care about what the logo or the website looks like, or especially you didn't 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. And so I think the importance of having a slick looking website, brand, social media presence, whatever it is online is relatively new for most of these, I would say, manufacturers and distributors, or brands that historically have had to rely on this one-to-one kind of sales rep relationship.
That makes sense, right? In the past, it was all about relationships with the sales team and not necessarily leading with the brand and the online presence. So what can our manufacturers, distributors, what lessons can they learn from D2C and B2C businesses that have put brand awareness and their brand at the forefront?
Well, I'll make a quick point. I think you see like some of these companies that, these D2C darlings, some of them are not actually that big. They're maybe doing 100 million and everyone knows, like Liquid Death Water. Now they're bigger, right? But everyone knew who they were even when they were. And then you have $500 million, even $1 billion distributors that almost no one's ever heard of, right? So that's just some context of like these big companies in B2B who you've never, and part of that makes sense because they're only going after a certain type of buyer and they only need these, few select big customers. Whereas I think it's Liquid Death is the name, is it needs every customer to drink their water because everyone drinks water. But I think the first thing they can learn is just basic kind of brand architecture and design. Where I would start is it's definitely, and we offer this pretty affordably now, is building kind of like a full, start to finish brand strategy, brand identity, brand book, but with like a more digitally focused element to it that even maybe has like a mood board or elements that they can use on their website. So the website will look like the new branding, social media will look like the new branding. They can apply it to their, catalogs. We actually recently did a print catalog for one of our customers. So we're, you can apply, we did their packaging, all of this can get redone, but the core brand book or brand Bible, usually needs to be redone with most of these companies. And it's not a,
How do you start that, Isaiah? What's at the core of that?
Yeah, that's a great
that
question. The first thing we do is just trying to understand the business and understand how they want to see themselves, or what's like, maybe almost what's their aspirational view of themselves. Because there's a bit of a difference of like how you are now, but like, hey, we're trying to get here and our brand should represent where we're trying to go. So there's a little bit of that, but also who are the customers? Who are we trying to target? Maybe there's a few personas within that, right? And so within that, we kind of call it archetypes. So it's almost like a psychology of like, what is the brand trying to convey? Are you kind of like the hero archetype where you're saving the day and you're Amazon and you get that thing done in 2 days or 1 day? Maybe the Amazon's not the hero, but it's an example of like how their service is solving a core basic problem. And then you have things like sage or wisdom, or a knowledge aspect. So you have all these different, maybe you have a fun aspect to your business if you're selling party supplies, right? Like, Party City or the B2B Party City should have a very different brand than whatever, someone selling plumbing supplies.
So understand those archetypes and then build kind of personas around each of them and understand what it is that you're trying to deliver within that kind of archetype. Is that how I should
Well,
think about it?
yeah. Yes and no. I mean, I think it's good. I think you need to kind of start by just writing all this stuff down, right? You have your different kind of personas. You maybe have some real world examples of customers that fit those personas. You look at all these different archetypes and kind of, I guess, feelings almost around what your brand could be. And it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. It could be like, hey, we're half this, half that, right? And we're a mix. And I think you kind of start there, and what's the ideal mix that the brand could, because the brand is generally one thing ultimately, but it might need to appeal to 3 or 4 different types of buyers, right? And so it might need to be this kind of mix of those things. And then we try and kind of, once we feel like we're kind of on the right track there, we will maybe present 3 variations of that visually. Like, here are 3 concepts, a logo or even a name or even like some copywriting associated with those 3 concepts. And maybe one's a little bit more on this side and a little bit less on that. And then we kind of iteratively, okay, this is starting to resonate. Let's go deeper onto that version. So that's generally how we approach it at the moment.
Yeah, I love that. And so now I've kind of defined what those are. Maybe I've reworked my branding. How do I get that out there? How do I implement that?
Yeah.
That's the scary bit. I think.
Yeah. It's really not that expensive to redo the branding relative to some of these other bigger. We're talking about digital transformation projects that can be hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars when you're doing ERP and everything all at once. Branding, the brand Bible, I think, can be done for quite a bit less than that, and we offer that relatively affordably compared to some of the other things they might do. But to your point, once you have that, it's useless if you don't it's just an internal document that does nothing by itself, right? So I would have a strategy, a roadmap, and we've done multiple rebrands of Trellis, and every time we come up with what are the things we need to apply it to. So we have to apply it to our Panda doc, which is our proposal templates. We have to apply it to our slide deck or variations of slide decks if we present decks to partners or to customers, and we have variations of our decks. Obviously, it needs to be applied to our website. It also needs to apply to social media. So what are all the potentially print materials if you have business cards or whatever else you may have in the physical world, signage. So depending on all that's also something that we take into consideration in the brand project, is all the places it's going to need to go. And we want to make sure that the brand is designed in a way that you can effectively, we may have a variations of like the logo, for instance, that will use this backdrop for LinkedIn is going to be different for than Facebook or Twitter. And so these assets have to be kind of slightly adjusted per like channel.
And so if let's say I'm an HVAC distributor.
Yeah.
And I've just rebranded. This would seem like a good opportunity to also reinvigorate my marketing. How should I think about that as a distributor? I'm selling HVAC. It's not sexy liquid death water. But how should I now think about?
There's a water involved, right? There's water involved in HVAC, right?
That's true. I could be using that water somewhere to be very expensive.
Very expensive HVAC.
Yeah, exactly, very expensive HVAC. But I can use this opportunity to reinvigorate my marketing. What channels should I think about? How should I think about that? Especially in B2B, where it's not mass marketing to consumers, right?
I'm so glad you asked that, because the first step of marketing, I think, is this brand messaging, right? And some of the messaging, you might have some core messaging or some core ethos and principles and things that are your brand essence, but you might have variations of those messages for different channels, right? So like what we might say on YouTube is a 1-hour video or on a podcast, and we can deeply explain our brand. But on Instagram, I only have like a picture and a couple of words. And so from the branding perspective, I think it's important to have, the ability to have variations of your brand. And when we think of branding, we don't think of just look and feel. We think about the messaging and the copywriting and some of the core words associated with the brand. But then at a more, sophisticated level, to your point, you might have to take that and create many more deeper variations of that, or stories that go way more in depth into different marketing channels. But I would start by thinking, like, is the current stuff we're doing now, like, let's say you redid your branding, right? And you did all that. Are the way that we're messaging on social media or whatever the channels we're using, does that actually reflect the new brand book that we're trying to achieve? And is there a better way for us to do that? Do we need to come across differently? Are we coming across as fun? Our new brand is fun, right? But is all of our stuff sound like it was written by OpenAI and it's like really boring and generic? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's where you kind of need to kind of marry the two. But it's hard, honestly. Marketing is hard.
I agree. Marketing is very, very hard. So I love that, right? It's understanding what is it that what's your brand book? What are your archetypes? What are the stories that you're trying to sell? What is your aspiration? Maybe what is your purpose in there as well? What are you trying to achieve as a business? And I think these are things that from a SMB all the way up to a large enterprise can be achieved and need to be done to really articulate your company's message to your buyers.
Can I give you a very specific example of you guys, of BigCommerce?
Please do.
Yeah, I mean, I think BigCommerce, when Brent's done an amazing job. How long has it been? Like 7 years? That I don't know. It's been a while. But I think when he took over the company, he realized, look, Shopify is doing great in the SMB and the small business and the kind of the out of the box solutions. Who is BigCommerce? How are we going to compete? And I think he took the company in the right direction, which was, we need to be the most enterprise, not the most enterprise, I'm probably saying that wrong, but the most flexible SaaS company that can appeal to mid-market and enterprise. And I think you guys as a brand started to realize, like, that's the future of BigCommerce, as this more flexible or open SaaS, right? And you started using the concept open SaaS. I'm not sure that those words were the perfect words, but I think the concept that you were trying to achieve was correct, right? And you're moving in that direction. And then it's a matter of playing around with different ideas and this, thing we're doing right now as a way to kind of get the message out in different variations. It's just you need to constantly be getting that message out with different variations. That's the hard part, I think.
I love that, but you can't do that unless you've got the right concept. Start with that concept and then find different ways to distribute that message across to your customer base. That's fantastic. Isaiah, this was a great one. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights.
Thank you.